Oh, this is Mr. Miles. I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of the stuff from week one that I didn't cover in my Native American notes video. So if you have not looked at that video first, I advise you to look at the Native American notes video that I posted right here. Okay, that just gives you the general outline of Native American history in the United States. So it's important to kind of know that context before we start actually reading these Native American myths and stories. So the thing that we did, I believe Tuesday and Wednesday, was that we did a compare and contrast of two Native American creation stories in class. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you this. This PowerPoint is really just a notes PowerPoint for you to go through. It just kind of tells you the highlights of what to do and what to look for when reading these myths. Because essentially the main thing to kind of bear in mind with these creation myths is the reason we have a myth in the first place. A myth is a story that is made up by a group of people, whether it's the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, the Egyptians, whoever, to explain why something happens, right? Why is the sun in the sky? Why does the ocean have water in it? Why are people here? They didn't have science and no technology to kind of figure these things out back in the day, so they came up with these stories. So that's what these creation myths are for, and specifically creation myths are created to tell us how did the earth come to be, what was important in that whole story. They're a very cause and effect type of story. Because of this happening, that's why we have a sun. Because of this happening, that's why we have people, and so on. So that's kind of the main thing about creation myths. One other thing that is important to note is that creation myths are also ways for us to see what is valuable to a certain culture. So when you're comparing and contrasting creation myths, it's almost like a window into that creation, into that tribe or group of people that's telling the creation myth. It's a window into what their cultural values, what their most important things are. So, for example, the ancient Egyptians will have things like crocodiles and scarab beetles in their mythology. Those animals are important to them. The Native Americans will have vegetables in their myths, like one of the myths we read that talks about squash, beans, corn. These are vegetables that are highly important because they're the central food, the staple food for that tribe. So these myths are a window into their cultures. So that's why we read them as well, to kind of compare and contrast the two. So once you've looked at this myth PowerPoint, you've got two creation myths here. How the world was made, which is a Cherokee myth. The Cherokee were a Native American tribe who are from this area, northwest Georgia. So you're going to read this, and I want you to sort of read it with that eye of looking for those two things. What can you tell? What animals, what values, what things do you think this tribe held to be significant or important? And what explanations does this myth give for the reasons why things are, or the reasons why people exist or anything happens? Okay, so read this myth, okay, and if you want to just write a Venn diagram on a piece of paper, Venn diagram, something like this. If you don't know what it looks like, it's the compare and contrast diagram, the two overlapping circles. So on the unique side, you can write all the things that are unique to this sort of myth. And then the other one, which will require a little bit more reading on your part, starts here. This is the World on Turtle's Back, which is an Iroquois creation myth. Now that tribe is from western New York, Buffalo, New York. That area is where they originated from, the Great Lakes region. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to read it, and you're going to keep an eye out for what things does this culture hold to be valuable, what sort of items, animals, images, symbols stand out to you as you read, what are some common themes that you see, and what are the explanations this myth gives for why people exist or why the earth was formed and so on. And I want you to sort of hold these two myths up to each other, next to each other, and try and compare, see where they're similar, see where they kind of combine, and how are they different? Where do they kind of diverge in their telling of how everything came to be? So that's the Native American myth lessons that we did. I'm not going to sit here and read these to you. They're on Google Classroom, so you can read them yourselves. But I would just make a Venn diagram on a piece of paper, and I would try to compare and contrast the similarities and differences between these two creation stories. How do these two stories have similar explanations for things, or do they have different explanations for things? Do they have similar cultural values that you can tell from their myths, things that their tribes hold to be important that they have in common, or are they different? Are they unique to each other? So that's the assignment for this lesson. So this was the Tuesday and Wednesday lesson, these two myths. Okay. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. All right. Have a good day. Bye.